Hello, hello, test, test.
Test,
Hello.
test.
This is the first panel that we're doing today, and obviously I wanted to start strong.
One.
And, and have all of you privacy builders say a few words. Ameen, Mykola, Parazyd, thank you for being here. Let's have an awesome conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Introduce yourself.
Great. Hi, I'm Ameen Soleimani. I was part of Moloch DAO giving a lot of the grants to Tornado Cash early on, helping steward the process, helping pay some of their legal funds too, and now working on privacy pools to try and advance a more potentially less sanctionable version that can prove that you're not like illicit funds when you withdraw, but without revealing who you are.
Cool. My name is Mykola Siusko. I'm a privacy advocate, if you can say, but not a legal advocate, more like on activist side. I run a think tank called Web3privacy now. Our aim is to make privacy mainstream on educational level and not a tool or a market accessible to technologically privileged people. And at the same time, I'm part of an NYM team trying to help make privacy on infrastructure level and basically work within the also metadata and how you can basically hide yourself from the bigger and passive adversaries that trying these days, demine your data and change the way you experience internet and life, etc.
Hi, I'm Parazyd. I've been a free software developer for about a decade or so now. Currently, I'm the lead developer of DarkFi, which is a new blockchain that we're making with privacy at its core, privacy by default. And it's something that's like very dear to me now, and moving into this whole cryptography aspect of it, and the maths are very interesting. For me, that pushes like the boundaries of the computation we can do today, and through that we can actually have a freedom there as code.
Thank you all three for being here, for traveling from far to be here and make a statement with us today. Maybe we can start this conversation by discussing the Tornado Cash case. I think you all came, we all chatted before, and I think you all wanted to be part of this event for Alexey and to make a statement. So maybe you could all share a little bit what this means to you.
I'm going to start by saying I think it's a bunch of bullshit that he was kept in jail for 6 months. Like, anklet technology is not new. Like, if he was a flight risk, they could have ankleted him 6 months ago. There was absolutely no reason to keep him in jail that whole time except to like mess with him. So I think that's kind of preposterous.
And I think it tells us, generally speaking, that once we experience technology and internet, and we think that it's a free space, we could do whatever we want, express ourselves, we are highly limited by many, many, many different actors who just, in a negative way, impact our life. And somehow there's this big stress between a certain democracy and freedom, especially of speech or code of speech that we can do on the internet, and at the same time, these big limitations that could be opposed of us. So it's not kind of, it's good in this weird way that suddenly also people woke up and like, oh, we need to defend ourselves. We need to get together, unionize in some sort of way. We need to collaborate instead of, usually anyone, you go Twitter, anyone shitting each other. Monero, Zcash, someone else. And it's kind of, they fight all the time instead of getting together and contribute for a better, also legal fund, also developing activist practices. And I will drop one small bomb a bit, commenting on compliance. It's not about Tornado Cash, but I was talking with our CM yesterday from Mexico, exploring privacy use cases, and he said that one of the biggest use cases is when journalists are doing work on the local government and narco traffic, and they could be dead tomorrow just because they're doing their job for the society, for the community, and they need a privacy tool. And in this sense, it's interesting that if you're compliant with the Mexico government on that case, you will have a big trouble. So it's interesting that in democratic countries of Europe or in the States, there's one thing. But if it's Mexico or Iran and you're a woman, there's a completely different story for you. So in this sense, I would also try to look at this case in a broader context and understand that lots of countries have different setup and lots of these groups are highly vulnerable, although they're working for, you can say, humanity.
Yeah, I agree with you also completely. It's what they often forget. What they often forget is like that people have this need of being private and like being compliant by giving out any kind of metadata and things, you get like shot at. That's like that was Obama's whole deal. It's like we kill people with metadata, and like even if you're like trying to be compliant, you're losing these like safety. It's like the safety is gone. Like you cannot like trust it. They also do this to people like Assange as well. They just arrest him and they keep him locked down without like visiting people and being able to talk to people. So it's like they're playing mind games, which I think are very painful for people who do this, and then it becomes very difficult to work as well. So we need to like stay together and help each other out.
I wanted to add a couple things.
You have notes.
Yeah.
You're prepared.
Just
professional.
Yeah. Pertsev is an FSB agent. Like that was fake news, right? But like the actual U.S. State Department, like Blinken, tweeted that like North Korea made Tornado Cash, and I was offended. Because I'm like, they didn't make it. I made it, right? Like, like, what's the deal, right? And so he had to like delete the tweet because the entire crypto Twitter showed up and was like, you can't just, as the Secretary of State, just like drop fake news that North Korea does this. Like, what? This is insane. And then I'm very grateful for Keith's presentation earlier. Thank you so much for very lucid presentation. And a couple things I would add to that is that like the Tornado Cash DAO didn't even control the protocol, right? It controlled like an opt-in wallet that you could use if, while you wanted to use the protocol, but you could just not use that wallet also. And then lastly, the DAO didn't even control like, it controlled a optional registry of relayers. It didn't even control like you weren't forced to use those relayers. You could either withdraw on your own or even use other relayers that you knew out of band. And so, yeah, and the last thing I'll add is that the St. Louis Federal Reserve published the best paper on Tornado Cash I've ever read. And they, in the last line, they say Tornado is a integral part of public blockchain infrastructure. Right? And their whole strategy for obtaining privacy on public blockchains, given what they knew at the time, which is like, we have a Tornado Cash, should we ban it, should we use it, how should we let people use it, what's the regulation? Their whole plan was use Tornado Cash's own compliance tool to help people reveal their transaction history to regulated financial institutions. And it's like, clearly this is not like a criminal enterprise. Like, we're building privacy tools that central bankers are like, this seems like a good idea, and their compliance tools like really helpful. Maybe we should look into this. And so I really hope that Alexey is able to win his case and obtain his freedom, and we can look back on this and sort of laugh at this era of misinformation perpetuated by governments.
I was wondering, what do you think about what the state is going to do, like to future projects like this, who are doing also like stuff even without compliance?
I don't think that had the intended effect that they thought. Like, I think they were trying to chilling effect it, and I think it just made everybody mad.
Yeah.
But like the problem with this thing of compliance, non-compliance, I just finished a research for Zcash on, because the problem that also the government officials have a very limited view on privacy use cases, because they project just one use case and said just criminals use this tool, and that's it. They're not interested in maybe marginalized groups, in maybe political activists.
That's the first misconception, right? I think.
Yeah,
and that you have to fight.
That's why I was like, kind of like, and still, if we go to community, if someone states it's for criminals, you need to have a really strong argument against, not just saying it's not, because when you have this Twitter chat, it wouldn't work. So we need something strong. And I use Ukrainian-Russian war as the kind of like the extreme need for privacy and research use cases. And there are lots of domestic violence survivors who are lacking funds for support. And basically, if you don't provide the means of survival and privacy or protection of information communication, abusive husbands would go and do domestic violence again and again and again. Or kids stalked online, kids that were forcibly moved from one territory to another, and they want a safe messenger, just one tool to talk with their parents, to understand what to do because they're lost, afraid, and stuff like that. And also researchers. Imagine you're doing something related with cancer or something with like, I don't know, the breakthrough in AI or even physics, and you need to connect with your colleagues in Oxford so they would relocate to you. And then you need a private communications, private tool to send your documents and stuff like that. And you're not a criminal. Maybe you're the new Nobel laureate, new Nobel Prize winner. And in this sense, these tools, they kind of create the possibility of big change. And sometimes when we look at this as from transactional perspective, we highly undermine audiences, the potential positive impact, and we also project this kind of like utopian view that I think people misunderstand in DarkFi. They see DarkFi as kind of like, oh, that's utopia. No, that's maybe the way. That's the question.
Yeah, but the thing is, we just have to put this technology out so people have it, people use it. That's why we make free software. It's not like something that's, oh, it's hard to use or whatever. Like maybe in the beginning, yeah, but I don't think that people won't write like user interfaces for DarkFi and like onboarding people on decentralized chat apps and stuff like that. So like, if we put the technology out, it's unstoppable.
To add to like the Ukraine example, like Vitalik has publicly stated that he was using Tornado Cash to donate to Ukraine, right? Like, I think it was Elizabeth Warren. Some senator was like, Tornado Cash was all money laundering, and it's like, which is that money laundering? Like, he's trying to help, you know? And it can be even the extreme to like the mundane. Like I was using Tornado Cash for payroll, right? Just so that people get paid without anybody being able to see like their entire, you know, transaction history and income and et cetera.
When all of this happened, what was your first reaction? How did you feel?
Found a lawyer.
Sorry?
Found a lawyer.
Yeah? I think that's what you were mentioning, Mykola, earlier, is like this, what is our first reaction as a community to learn from this as it's developing as well, which is really difficult.
I will point out one thing that we should mature in a way that from community on Telegram group and stuff, I've seen that there were lots of high caliber lawyers like Ahmed from NYM, who was supporting Guantanamo case, Silk and Noah, like lots of talented defenders who could set up the structure, how you talk about it, how you communicate about it for the community, like not maybe in the hardcore legal terms, but how to react. What's your next time move when you go to investor, for example, and you pitch the same project? You would say, you know, we're not a mixer, we're something else. You hide it, or you have a great legal punchline, basically. And then the next big thing is that there's still community separation because kind of it's right time to do an activism, but real deal activism with campaigning, with flights for campaigns, with a certain creativity, how you name each campaign, what's the point there. And I think it just started there. It's this example of, hey, this could be how community could defend itself. And it's funny that last summer, I've seen one vacancy from Status team. It's called Head of Activism. I'm like, what? A Web3 project has this vacancy, not this DeFi guru, whatever. And they're like, no, we're building grassroots movement. We are building advocacy. I guess it's something like Ethereum community in a way, but there's still big room for how to develop a smart approach within so many projects that could get together and build this kind of like forefront of use cases first. Second, if you go to a Tor website, one super good recommendation, they have a public research on user personas, and they published this Fatima researcher from Iran persona stating why this person needs privacy, how this person uses privacy, what's the technical proficiency of this person, what's the risk level of this person. And once we will publish this publicly, all this information, then we find much more meaningful ways how to collaborate cross countries and with the different mindsets.
So is this time now to sort of build resilience, educate people around us, and just be ready? Is this I think the mantra in crypto is like, in the beginning they laugh at us, they ignore us, and then we fight. Do you think, as privacy builders, this is fight time?
It is?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
That's the short answer. When Tornado got OFAC'd, I was actually at ZCon in Las Vegas. Day one of ZCon, I was going around telling everybody how amazing Tornado Cash was. And then day two of ZCon, I was just like raging. I'm pretty sure I like joined a Twitter space and like yelled at everybody. Some people were like, yay, we have legal clarity. I'm like, they're about to throw my friends in jail. Like, fuck every single one of you. That's not the regulatory clarity I want. And I remember having this conversation with somebody, I think it was somebody who helped with like WEF stuff too. And they were like, look, like if you could just take out all of the bad guys, this was right before it got sanctioned. Right, if you could take out all of the bad guys in Tornado Cash and everything else worked the same, like, wouldn't you do it? And I had to think about that for a while. And I was like, I don't think I would. And it's not because like I don't want the bad guys using it. It's because I don't believe that I should have the power to decide who the good and bad guys are for everybody. More so, I don't think anybody should have the power to decide who the good and bad guys are for everybody. Right? This is a privacy tool that we want to create as a public good. We made it for ourselves because before we made this, the way to achieve privacy on the public blockchain was like run your money through Coinbase, right? And it's like any low-level support engineer at Coinbase can just get bribed for like $1,000 and then just reveal your entire transaction history. It's not a very sophisticated privacy setup, So we built it for ourselves. We built it, and had we even kept the keys, right? Like somebody would just put a gun to our head one day. It's like, it's not in the position you want to be in, right? It's important that these things are, that we view control as liability and try to relinquish it where possible. So I was upset, and then once, I found out that Alexey had actually been thrown in jail by the Netherlands authorities, I was just very upset and sort of demoralized because at the time I couldn't imagine, a way to overcome this, but I was reinvigorated by the community really rallying around this cause. It's not something I expected to see, to be quite honest. To see Coin Center come out and start filing lawsuits against the government, the Treasury, OFAC itself, and to see like Coinbase come out and support, and even our bankless guy like David Hoffman, he got dusted on his wallet, and so he's like, let's dance, Treasury. It was cool to see that kind of support and people appreciating privacy for the value that it actually provides for society, and not being willing to just let this go.
How do you see, now that we're in this sort of in-between phase here with this case, how do you see it individually in your work today? Has it changed something in how you see the future of your own projects?
Personally, I'm a bit concerned about Ethereum's future because it might become just purely illegal to run an Ethereum node, or everything gets censored. I think it's really cool that people build privacy tools on Ethereum, and people also build layer 2s and whatever, which is good and private, but it is still kind of scary that there is this chance that everything could be banned and you become a criminal for using it. So I want to remove this concept of identity, of using identity on a blockchain and just having everything anonymous. So we will have a new paradigm of finance.
We ran a lot of surveys on audience, and we found out that if you ask people blindly if they care about privacy, they would say, yeah, of course, of course. But then they don't use any tools, they don't promote it in a meaningful way, they just copy these phrases, privacy is a norm and stuff like that, but they don't understand what does it mean. And
people stop using Linux.
Yeah. There's very limited amount of people. And then if you try to research geographically what's happening with the privacy, I don't know, the Indian, our CM recently told me that, hey, government opposed 30% tax on crypto, so people went in search for privacy tools. And then the big use case is porn. And I'm like, aha, there are local things to that. And in Turkey, the opposite. They're seeking censorship-resistant tool to read truth or alternative media, and basically that's just VPN. They don't need, maybe they wouldn't even know that it's a privacy tool. It's basically for them, it's a glimpse beyond the government firewall. And I think that a good psychological tool is to understand that we live in our small bubble. And then once Tornado Cash happens, you need to communicate this bubble to external world, like a journalist in the traditional media. And suddenly they don't know Vitalik, they don't know Tornado Cash and stuff, and they don't know Ethereum. And it's kind of weird explaining complex stuff to people who are maybe writing for financial things. And in this sense, I think that we need to do like a step back and collaborate with like EEF, the NGOs, organizations who are fighting for privacy for many years, on this fundamentally different level, when they could use court decisions as a defense of a certain case. They could structure articles or comments on the OFAC, on the senators' opinions in less childish way, more like super serious. And at the same time, it's an interesting time for us to, and that's what we're kind of doing. Like, I'm like, where is the Academy for Privacy? There's nothing 101 privacy for general public. There's none. It doesn't exist in this market. It exists in Web 2, but we're kind of afraid of collaborate with them. No, you're traditionalist, you're centralized.
And I've also seen something very interesting here in the Netherlands while trying to gather interest and actually to rally the general public for this case. First of all, the charges were kept unclear, not public, which threw a lot of people in disarray and couldn't stand against or for, because they basically didn't know why Alex was being detained. So even normal privacy advocacy groups that you could think of, privacy, just straight up privacy associations, as well as other bigger knowns, I would say all the way to Amnesty, refused to make statements because of that unclarity. And I think that was definitely a play in the case, is that opacity, which also prevented the community, the wider community of privacy builders to be able to stand up for or against. The second thing is that every headline mixed everything. There was Lazarus Group, KGB agent, and and crypto, all in one headline. And for the media, this was a terrifying topic, right? And so even for a privacy advocate, the first thing that I realized while attending normal conferences around privacy is that because this was linked to crypto, it was double scary. And I feel like these are all the narratives that we're trying to fight. So yes, to more education, but it's, as you said, it's not one side. And every country has their own cultural specificities around privacy and what it means and use cases.
Here's the trick for you.
Yes, please.
When we talk about privacy, it's like a boogeyman. Big brothers watching you, they will fight you whenever they will
crypto,
find
right?
you.
Also, like, it's the end of fiat, we're coming for you.
You will
it's
die.
Like double scary.
I call it fear-based communication. And it's hard to connect based on the fear in big groups. In small groups, 100 people here, there, of highly paranoid people, I would say, you know them. And of this anonymous, and then you collaborate with them on DAO, and you're like, what? Who are you? Like when we all gonna go into jail? So, but think about the opposite. Like, if this unicornish, whatever, bright, positivistic thinking on privacy could exist and how it would even enroll in terms of how people could connect with each other. So what we are thinking a bit in like human rights, empowerment, and envision of the new internet. Fair, decentralized, whatever. But then not putting too much pressure with the Snowden on the shoulder of poor Mexican person who just exploring Web3. Otherwise he would be like, wow, it's too much for me. And one last. People think they're too small to fight the bigger authorities. That's the typical comment we see in the socials. It's kind of like, who am I comparing to the government? And in this case, person just losing power on doing something, not just against, but kind of reclaiming agency over her or its own privacy. It's kind of like, I'm too small to fight or to be part of campaigns.
Yeah, often people think they're alone, but just look at how many people rallied for Tornado Cash, and like, it means a lot.
I have to say this was this example of being in court and seeing one human, one individual standing, across from this almighty government that felt very righteous. And as we build, as we move forward, as we build, I just want to make sure that we try to keep inspiring people about privacy, that it's this beautiful, positive unicorn, but also that us in the back end, that we build as much resilience as possible to these things. Because maybe one thing that we can all say is that Tornado Cash lives on, right? One person was in jail, but the protocol and the blockchain and the smart contracts keep turning. How can we keep and make sure that that resilience goes on?
I think one way is to like advocate for other use cases that also benefit from privacy. Like I think it was like Andrew Yang was like, we should put voting on the blockchain, and everybody knew how that worked. Was like, no, do not do this, right? Because things like Semaphore, which actually do private voting, and things like Machi weren't really ready yet. But now I think Semaphore is in production in some cases, and you can actually have private voting. And people get why you want private voting, right? That's not like a very scary use case. That's like, it would be insane if everybody's votes were tallied for all presidential or et cetera elections. That's like one of the defaults that we have. And so being able to just use our tools to build those defaults is a way to advocate for the whole sort of umbrella of private tooling altogether.
I think when we were researching on privacy tooling database, I saw that last year lots of projects shut down, especially mixers, disappeared, discords are dead, everyone left somewhere without even leaving a certain node that we need to work together, help each other, whatever. It's like, whew, they disappeared. And I'm like, wow, it's like dozens of them are just dead. Privacy coins, the same. And I think partially they were scared, partially they see how the government, the USA government could come to their house and stuff like that. And I think that the problem is that there are lots of talented engineers who are scared or who prefer to do something DeFi, like something easy going. And that's a big misconception because basically why you make, again, white people become richer, then you could contribute to something really meaningful in a sense that then maybe the next time you won't have 1 million transactions, fancy transactions, but instead you will save lives of the 10 people, again, in Iran or in other geographies. And in this sense, what I really like that we need to connect the dots. One of the good dots is here. There's a guy, JJ, you know him, I think. He is advocating. No. He is advocating for Tigrayan people in Ethiopia. Because he is part of the community, and they are doing self-custody entropy project, and he is running a DAO, he's running fundraising, and it's a perfect match for the, first of all, highly passionate developer, and at the same time, he seeks for privacy tooling, and then he seeks for community collaboration. The same with the Core DAO, and lots of DAOs that emerged, Lunar DAO, that emerged in a way like how we could reshape collaboration culture. So instead of just saying, let's replicate or defend, let's go back to collaborate and understand what does it mean. Maybe it's an R&D, like Aragon and Aztec is doing on private voting. Maybe it's educational, like explain privacy or Tornado Cash to 11-year-old, like these things. Then, or a case, explain the case to 11-year-old.
Yeah.
And then collaborate and help each other. And here I would say that maybe all these privacy fancy tools could allocate grants, not just for tooling, but also advocating. And I see the alliances coming, but they're a bit slow for me.
Well,
Sorry,
yeah.
what's coming?
No, alliances are, privacy alliances are coming, but there's no actions. There's no kind of like, hey, this is a workshop with lots of lawyers from the field on Tornado Cash case. That's our statement. That's how we work. That's our principles that we push forward. Here's our grants to the people related in researching, in advocating, and other things.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Maybe some last words for the hackers that are here, hacking on privacy, hacking on DeFi, what you would like to see in the future, and maybe some last few words for the Tornado Cash case.
Tornado Cash is just the beginning. Tornado Cash was the second deployment of ZK snarks in production in history after Zcash. The genie is not going back in the bottle, right? ZK is here to change everything. Like humans, if cryptography gave us secrets, the ability to have secrets, then what ZK gives us is the ability to have shared secret state, right? And in Tornado Cash, that shared secret state is very simple. It's like a Merkle tree. Did you spend the money or not? You know, but it can be far more complex. And I think in time we'll start basing more of our society on these kinds of things, right? You want the ballot box that everybody trusts that, you know, doesn't reveal how people voted, but we all believe and have faith that it does actually count the votes properly and outputs the right thing. And so I believe that this stuff will be transformative, and looking forward to seeing what all the hackers come up with.
And I recommend hackers do lots of CAS-dev, like lots of user research before even going for use cases. And one comment again from Mexico, that it's really literally a quote. We need maybe like a VPN, this one big button, connect, and then you will make a private browsing, and not opposing on the people too complex buzzwords or slang. So they would be like, what, it's like the first generation of wallets were like that. How I even use it? UX, UI is just broken. And now this became like one button, two button, and that's it. So in this sense, try to think broadly in terms of that not many people have so many computers in the world. They use smartphones. Their smartphones are cheap. So if you do an application, think around how it would work on this cheap smartphone, and basically try to put yourself in the shoes of not privileged group. Then your privacy tooling will find much bigger perspective, and lots of projects would back it up. Because basically it's not ending with the hacking space. Maybe tomorrow you will go and seek for funds, for support, for grants, and understanding how these privacy tools could be scalable, it's super important to think about it here and now.
Yeah, nice, well put. For hackers, I would say solve problems. Don't just like give out solutions which don't solve any problems. Like find the issues and solve them. Utilize simplicity. It's very helpful. You will see in your experience of programming, it's the best thing. Regarding Tornado Cash, I think it's the future. Like maybe not Tornado Cash specifically, but all of this anonymity, all of this technology that we're getting, it's going to win. I'm pretty sure about that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you all three.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.